Greetings and welcome to another video from odooclass.com. In this video we're going to take a look at Odoo 11's manufacturing application and how you can use it to set up your own workflow and manufacturing operation. We're going to begin by just installing Odoo manufacturing. We've got a database name, email, and password. This doesn't have to be an email, it can just be admin or whatever you want it to be. And we've defaulted the country to United States, and we'll hit continue. So as you can see here, we are in Odoo 11 Enterprise. This will work the same in Community. There's not really that much difference in terms of functionality in the core manufacturing application. So we're going to begin by going to Apps and finding Manufacturing right here and clicking Install. So like many business application setups, what we're going to do is we're going to take this problem and we're going to break it down and implement it step by step. And we're taking a real world type of manufacturing application here in which we're going to manufacture a towel hanger combination in which we have towels that we purchase, and we may or may not print something on these towels, and we have hangers, wooden hangers, in which these towels will hang on, and they're sold as a combination, as a kit. And we're going to set up this manufacturing application so that we can see exactly how we can track the purchase of the products, how we can set up our work centers, how we can route and maintain our manufacturing orders. We're going to start simple, and we're going to start with the very basics, and we'll build out and make it more complex. And I highly encourage that for anyone who's trying to implement a manufacturing business application, not just Odoo, any manufacturing application in business. You need to break it down and learn all the pieces. So we're going to start real simply with looking at manufacturing here, and remember that we're gonna have a finished product that's going to be a towel and a hanger together, and that we're going to have to make the hanger. So we're going to start with this somewhat simple concept, and we'll build on it and see how we can create an entire workflow, a manufacturing workflow through this. So to begin, I like to often start with the finished product, because the finished product is going to be the thing you're selling to the customer, and in a lot of cases, at least temporarily, when you're implementing a system, you can take out a lot of the details and the intermediate processes and just focus on, for example, the invoice you need to get to the customer, what you need to pay them, and here's the finished product. So we're going to start there, and we can come here into manufacturing. We click master data and products, and we know that we want our finished product in this case to be towel and hanger kit. We can call it whatever we want. We don't have to call it kit. We just call it a towel and hanger. And there's going to be maybe multiple, obviously, products. You might have dozens of these products of this certain category. Maybe you just have a few, but it's always good to start with maybe your most popular product, the one you're selling the most. Use the 80-20 rule. Focus on what your business does most often and work through that workflow first. So we're going to, in this case, assume that we're taking a towel and a hanger as our finished product. Now, in this example that we're going to use, we're going to just say that we're going to manufacture this hanger, and we're going to purchase the towel, and then we're also going to have to obviously put the finished product together. So you'll notice that I've named it here, and this is not something that we can purchase. We're going to build this. So we check the can be purchased off. We can sell it but we can't purchase this. This is something we're creating. So this is the first step here, so that it locks us out of showing this product and purchasing. Then here, product type, it's important that you say a stockable product so that you can keep track of your inventory. Everything that we're doing in this video is going to be a stockable product of some kind. In fact, I would say that unless you are consumables, really just to be brief, consumables are going to be used when perhaps things that you purchase in bulk that you're just using as part of a manufacturing process, or something that you really have no need or care to inventory. It's probably not what you would use in most operations that are trying to keep a tight control on things. And obviously you can make a service, which would be a different kind of business than a manufacturing, but you could have, like, if you had to fix things or do some kind of repair, you could have a service product as well. We're sticking with stockable for this manufacturing example. Now we have a sales price. Now this is again, in operations like this, you might have a web front end that has a sales price to the customer. Perhaps for a towel and hanger combination, it's $15-$20. Then you'd have a different price of what you would sell to distributors or to retailers that would then resell the product to end customers. So this would involve price lists on the sales side. We're not going to concern ourselves with that on the manufacturing side just yet. We'll look at that later as we move past just the manufacturing piece. But for now, we're going to put our sales price at what we do in a business-to-business context. We'll just say, as an example, $5 as a price between business to business. And you would, of course, set this to your own operation. So at this point, we've configured the product. There's nothing under sales here. And in inventory, we want to come down here and make sure we choose manufacturer as one of the routing operations. And for 95% of manufacturing operations, these default routing, just clicking manufacturer there will be enough. And at this point, we could save just so that we don't lose anything. And now we want to tell the manufacturing application what goes into our towel and hanger. So we could go ahead right now, if we wanted to, and come here to bill of materials and create a bill of materials for our towel and hanger. And you can see right here we have product, towel and hanger, and this is to create one of these towel and hanger end products. We pick what component goes in it, and we're obviously going to need a towel that we will purchase, and we can just go ahead and create this. We don't have to do anything else with that yet. And we're also going to need a hanger, and we create that. And you'll notice that it takes one towel and one hanger to create the full kit of the towel and hanger that we're going to sell. Now I should probably not use the word kit here because that's confusing. This BOM type is going to default always to manufacture this product. When you would use kit is when you would want to actually put out into the final work order, or the final delivery order to the customer, all of the items. So let's use a first aid kit, for example. Someone might purchase a first aid kit, and then on the delivery order, when they purchase that first aid kit, you want to list all of the components that are inside of that, and not necessarily manufacture the first aid kit. You're assembling it, and say you're taking a Band-Aids, and you're taking some gauze pads and some tape and maybe an instruction book, and you put all that into a first aid kit. You're just going to list all those out on the delivery order. That's what a kit is for. And so if you're watching this and you're thinking, well, why would I use that? That you might even use it in this case. You might decide, well, we have the towel and the hanger, we want to sell it as a final product. But maybe we want to list, and just as a kit, as it says here, that you might want to list it as a semi-finished product or a list of the raw materials. In other words, list the towel and the hanger separately instead of showing it as the final product as a whole finished unit. Sorry, I got a little long-winded there. I just want to make sure you understand why you might use that kit. So once we're done here, we can hit save, and we've created our first bill of materials. Sometimes we'll call it a BOM. And when we create one towel and hanger, we're going to consume a towel and a hanger from inventory, and you can see our quantities over here. So even just with this simple state, what I would recommend is, like in all of these building up of systems, is you go ahead and test it out at this level. So we would come here to operations and choose manufacturing orders, and we create a manufacturing order, and we're going to say we're going to create a towel and a hanger product, and you can see here it's automatically populated our bill of materials. So you can see you can have multiple bill of materials. So this is where, as if you're setting up your own system, remember that you can make it so that under certain circumstances, certain variables that might happen internally within your company, you could choose a different bill of material here to produce this final product. And that's going to be more important if you have different options, different qualities like colors or certain decorations or things that you might add to a particular product here. You are going to maybe end up with multiple bill of materials so that you can properly consume the components that you need to create the final product. So with this, like right now, ready to go, we can go ahead and hit save this manufacturing order, and just as simple as that. And let's say we want to go ahead and produce 20 of these. So we're going to go ahead and produce 20, and then we're going to hit save. And you'll see as soon as we hit save, it shows us here our consumed materials that are expected to be consumed. And you can see to consume is 20 here, and the reserve, none is reserved, none is consumed, because we haven't checked availability. We haven't found it. So if we hit check availability, you'll see we can just keep clicking this forever, and it's never going to come up because we don't have 20 towels in our inventory. We don't have 20 hangers. Now, I take this approach on purpose to show you that even though we've created the manufacturing order, that's one of the controls that Odoo is going to have in place by default, is you're not going to be able to just create 20 towels and hangers unless you have the components. Now that said, we can go ahead here and ignore the availability, ignore the fact that we don't have 20 towels and 20 hangers to make our 20 towel and hanger combinations. But we can go ahead here and hit produce, and I'm doing this on purpose because I think it's important that you follow these same sorts of steps when you're trying to configure your own manufacturing system. Don't try to put it all together at once with automatic purchase orders, automatic sales orders, routing and work centers, and just understanding bill of materials, how to create a manufacturing order like we did here with a bill of materials. And don't worry about whether it's in inventory or not. We're not worried about that. We'll just hit produce, and you can see here we got 20 towels and hangers we're going to produce, and we'll hit record production. So why might you do this? Well, sometimes you're putting these systems in place when systems are already live and your company's already in business, and that's usually the case. No one's starting from zero, and so you might not need you might want to get this manufacturing part up and running when you've already got tons of inventory in, and you don't want to take the time to try to put all your initial quantities in and so forth. There might be a reason to do it this way, but let me show you. Now that we have manufactured these and we mark them as done, let's take a look at what it has done to the inventory. So we can come back out here to our apps and go to inventory, and we come up here under reporting and look at inventory. and we want to just do it current. This is usually how you would do it. And you'll see here we got our towel and hangers. We got 20 on hand because we built 20, and then notice how our towels and our hangers are at -20, as they should be. So even though we consumed towels we didn't have and we consumed hangers we didn't have, Odoo still accounted for that. And it means that now, as we evolve into the next step in this video course, to change the system so that we're actually bringing in these raw materials before we actually create work orders. So the easiest way to do this is come to our dashboard here, and you see that we have receipts, and we can come in here to receipts and click create. So let's say that you've already got a purchasing system. Maybe it's in QuickBooks, maybe it's in Peachtree, or you're doing it in Excel. It doesn't really matter, but you've got a purchasing system. You're already buying stuff that's coming in, and what we want to do is account for that and implement Odoo to take over the receiving part and then the manufacturing and inventory part. In other words, as we're building this out, we're assuming that something else is handling the purchasing. Until we implement that in Odoo, we're going to build this out just as manufacturing. So we can come in here and say Acme Enterprises is someone I'd added in here. And we can now say that we want to receive, how many do we want to receive? Of our towels. And we just say right here how many we get in. We don't have an initial demand. It blanks that out for us. So let's just say we get 500 towels, and this would be basically data you might get from another source, or you have just called the company and said, hey, we need 500 towels. You know you're going to send them a check. You're not ready to implement all that in Odoo yet, possibly as a scenario. But we're just going to say validate and save this just like that. And just like that, if we come back over to reporting and look at our inventory, we can see that now we have 480 towels because we've got our 500 that we just received, we just accounted for them, and then of course the 20 that we used up in our building of our first manufacturing order. So now that we're there, let's go ahead and add a little bit more complexity. Instead of just buying the towel holders and the hangers, we're going to go ahead and make a manufacturing a BOM for those, because we're going to make the hanger. We're purchasing the towel, and we're going to have an operation that puts the towel and the hanger together to sell them together. But we're also going to have an operation to make the hanger. And so that gives us our nested bill of materials. In other words, we're nesting one bill of material in another. In order to create the hanger and towel combination, we're first going to have to create the hanger, and we're going to have another BOM in the hanger. So let's go ahead, and we're just going to assume in this case that we're making our hammer or our hanger out of plywood. And let's go ahead and just make some assumptions here. We're going to go ahead in our hanger and go to click bill of materials and create a bill of materials for our hanger. And let's go ahead, and when we're building these hangers, right, we're going to use a CNC machine. It's going to cut automatically the pattern for the hangers, and we're going to do that in an operation. So we're not just going to do them one at a time. So let's go ahead and say that, for example, we're going to create 200 hangers in one of these operations. Well, we're going to have to purchase the raw materials here, and so we can just come right in here and say plywood. We're actually going to go on and just say this is an MDF, and we can even give it any kind of further description we need, and click create. That this is our component, and in order to create 200 of these hangers, we're going to have to use 2 sheets. And actually, I will put 2, just to make it a little different, we'll put 208. So whenever we create this bill of materials, we already know it's going to take 208 at a time, and we're going to consume this much plywood. Now, like a lot of manufacturing setup and configuration, these applications, there's a lot of ways to do it. You could say one quantity here, and then in the plywood part, you could divide out and figure out what that multiple is in terms of 0.0, 15, whatever it happens to be. I should know offhand, so it would be 0.05 or something like that, but or close to it, in order to have a percentage of plywood that you're using up for each hanger. But depending on the specs you get and how you configure it, this is a good way to think. We're going to get 208 hangers out of 200 plywoods, because the CNC machine is going to be able to cut both of these. And we'll see later how we can handle this in different ways. So now that we've set up our hanger and it's going to consume this product, now what we probably might have failed to do, if we click on this product, we just got to make sure, we can click this little icon here to make sure that it's a stockable product. And we want to assign some cost to this. Now that we're starting to get this set up, let's go ahead and see how we can set up some standard costs. If we know the plywood is going to cost us $6.98 a sheet, let's put that in there. And let's go ahead and say we can't just sell this plywood. We don't intend to. This is not our business, is selling plywood. We buy plywood, in this example, to make the hangers. We don't buy plywood to resell it, so we turn that off. And so this is then at this point irrelevant, and I just noticed that we're defaulting to euros here, even though I picked the US. That's not what we're concerning ourselves in this video. We're concerning ourselves with workflow, so we're going to stay on task here, but I did just notice that euros. And so you'll notice here that this plywood, we don't want to change anything here because we're not manufacturing it, and we're not making this make to order means that we would create a manufacturing order for every sale we make. So this would tie into sales orders. That sales orders themselves would trigger manufacturing orders, rather than min-max levels are just manually creating manufacturing orders. So for this is all we need. We're never going to have a bill of materials for plywood because we don't make the plywood. We purchase. This can be purchased. So we're going to purchase towels. We're going to purchase plywood. We're going to create and make hangers and hanger towel combinations. So we save, and this is all we need here. We're going to consume 2 of these plywood products, units of plywood. Now, right now we don't have multiple units turned on. We don't actually have to configure it for this example, but we could, for example, rename at some point and work with dimensions and more sizes and things like that, rather than just we use up 2 pieces of plywood. But this is good for our example getting started. All right, so we save that, and we can now create a manufacturing order to create some hangers based on this plywood. Now, we have to first receive our plywood. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead, and if you saw in our previous example how we did it, you might want to think through your head, well, how would I get product into inventory that I don't have. Remember how we did that before? We came here to operations. I'm sorry, we came here to dashboards and we came to my receipts. We clicked receipts and created a receipt. And again, you want to know where your plywood comes from. We'll just say that we're going to get all our raw product from Acme Enterprises. Obviously, you would have a different partner a lot of times for the different raw materials. You just put them in there. And what product are we going to receive? Well, we're going to receive this plywood. And how many do we need? Let's go ahead and just pull in 10 sheets of plywood. And remember, we can create 208 hangers for every 2 sheets we use. So we're going to validate this. And let's just look at our inventory now so we know everyone's on the same page, knows where we're starting at. That we have our plywood that we just received in inventory, 10 sheets. We have negative 20 hangers. Remember, we haven't made them yet. That's what we're going to do right now, is we're going to zero out these hangers by creating a manufacturing order to actually make them. So let's go ahead and do that. We come here to operations. I'm sorry, we're in inventory. Come here to manufacturing and operations. Create a manufacturing order, and let's create 20 hangers. So we come in here to hanger, and notice how it automatically picks the bill of material for our hanger. And if I just choose one, let's see what just happens if I just choose one and hit save. Notice how to consume is the 0.01. In other words, to produce just one of these, it needs 0.01 plywood. If I edit this and I change this to update, I can put in how many do we really want to produce. Remember, we said we can produce 208 in a single bomb. And now you'll notice how it comes out and says to consume is 2 and reserves 2. So it's reserving us 2 pieces of plywood. Also notice that there's no check availability here. It already checked availability, found that we have 2 available, and it's already reserved the 2 for us because this time we received them in the inventory before we used them up. And so let's go ahead and produce 208 hangers. And we can now I noticed when it came here, it consumed 2, and then it put a 0.08 on here, which I think can't be a coincidence. We're not going to worry about that too much right now. But I would, obviously in a production environment, we'd be concerned about a 0.08 decimal difference. It probably would work out in the workflow to not matter. We would find other reasons with more complexity to offset it. But I'd want to find out why that is. But to stick with our example, we're going to mark this as done. And it did. Well, we'll figure that out at some point. I don't want to get too distracted with this, but you can notice that it consumed 2, and then it added a 0.08, and we'll figure that out later. But you can see that we consumed our 2 plywood sheets plus another 800th of a sheet, and then at that point we'll save, and we can go to our inventory again and see what we have in there, and we'll see our hangers. We report our inventory. So now you can see we have 188 hangers because of the ones that we had 20, and we were 20 in the hole. Remember, we already had used up 20 for this first towel and hanger combination. So now we're left with the 188 because we just produced 208 of them, and 208 minus 20 is 188. So you can see how Odoo's doing what it's supposed to do, minus a small rounding error here. That again, we would work this out in production. We don't probably here I don't want to get too distracted with that, of why it did that. I'll track it down later. But let's move on and see how at this point we're accounting for the raw materials. We're saying, oh, we used up a towel, we used up plywood to make the hanger, and now we used up the hanger and the towel to make the towel and hanger. Let's quickly just do one example of how now when we do the towel and hanger, it's going to automatically consume the products from the inventory because we have enough in there. So I can say towel and hanger. Let's go ahead and produce 12 of them. Save. Check our availability. And you can see it found them and it reserved them. And now we can produce. Because we know we have plenty of towels, we have plenty of hangers. We can now create manufacturing orders to create hangers. And we can transfer in towels, and we can transfer in plywood. So we've, just manufacturing, just inventory, you can see here we have now 12 more towels and hangers we've created, and all of our inventory has been adjusted as you would expect. And we'll just pull it up just to give an overview, and I'll just open them up here so everybody can get a look. And notice how we're still dealing with one stock location. We're assuming everything is staged in the same place. We're assuming there's no routing, there's no work centers, there's no labor involved. So in this next section, now that this has kind of gone through the basics of bill of materials, creating your finished products, getting your raw products into inventory, learning how to go in and check on them, and then creating a nested bill of materials in which, like in this case, we have a towel and hanger which requires a hanger that also has a bill of material for it as well. So in our next section, we're going to look at now how we can set up some work centers so we can track our time and our labor and other features about our manufacturing operations.